Coming up, the real reason WWE is pushing Big E, a huge WWE heel turn and NXT title change, a wrestler passes away, and my review of last night's AEW Dynamite.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Smash that subscribe button for daily wrestling news videos, and to get WrestleTalk straight to 800,000 subscribers. While this year's WWE draft has faced criticism for not making any sense, like Raw only drafting Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods when they could have used that same pick to get all the New Day, there has been a brightly coloured blue and pink lining, the long-awaited singles push of Big E. And in an interview with Gorilla Position, Big E himself revealed the real reason for it happening. I have to credit Daniel Bryan, because the idea for the solo run was from him. Like, Bryan is the reason. He's not just like, hey, Big E, but he's actually a part of the process, and he's the one who said, hey, this is what we should do with Big E. Bryan recently admitted he's winding down his in-ring career, and he's reportedly been behind creative for Drew Gulak earlier this year and Chad Gable, who's finally dropped his Shorty G name, because that might be the only WWE name worse than Slapjack. Last night's Halloween Havoc special episode of NXT also saw some significant creative changes, with the return of Pete Dunne to the brand, where he turned heel and joined Pat McAfee's new stable of Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. Much like the main roster's brand warfare theme, November is also the month random four-person teams get thrown together to face the Undisputed Era in NXT. While War Games isn't happening on Survivor Series weekend this year, NXT does have a takeover booked for December 6th. Also at Halloween Havoc, Johnny Gargano became the first ever two-time NXT North American champion, defeating Damian Priest, and Io Shirai and Candice LeRae had an incredible tables, ladders, and scares match main event. Alex McCarthy and Stephanie Chase will be covering Halloween Havoc on Wrestling Daily today, so subscribe to Wrestle2 to know when that goes live. Following on from yesterday's story of AEW and NWA star Thunder Rosa potentially being on her way to WWE after dropping the NWA Women's Championship, NWA President Billy Corgan revealed on Instagram Rosa is actually contracted to NWA through 2021, meaning she couldn't be signed to AEW or WWE even if she wanted to. It was reported earlier this year, though, that Corgan was letting people out of their contracts if they requested it, while NWA wasn't running any shows during the pandemic. And Rosa has continued to tease her next move, writing the names of the three companies on the side of her bottom, with the caption of, "What's next?" I suppose that means, with the butt of the joke there. Pro wrestling veteran Tracy Smothers passed away earlier this week, aged 58. Smothers wrestled for promotions such as WCW, ECW, WWE, and TNA, holding the ECW tag titles and the WCW United States titles. He had announced last November that he was battling lymphoma in his second battle with cancer. Tributes were made by WWE, AEW, the NWA, and others on social media. Rest in power, Tracy. Now it's time for my review of last night's AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. Thanks for your support on Patreon, Arnie K. The K stands for the coolest dude ever. MJF talked up Wardlow for his show-opening world title tournament semi-final. You like that nipple? Because that's Wardlow's nipple. Which Hangman Page started off super hot, but Wardlow's nipples give him extra damage resistance, and nothing was very effective. Wardlow looked incredible working with Page, with them both striking the perfect balance of Wardlow no-selling and Page's babyface desperation. Wardlow kicked out at 1 after Page's top rope moonsault outside to hit an F10, but 2 buckshot lariats gave Hangman the win after the first just bounced off Wardlow's chest. Nipple power!
For Sauron will have dominion over all life on this earth.
Yes, nipple of Wardlow. I can beat lukewarm Luke Owen at Full Gear. And then Survivor Series has even bigger plans. Moxley cut another terrific promo on Eddie Kingston, putting over AEW as a company and his own ability to both crush windpipes and egos, which Kingston replied to by beating Matt Sydal in a much more technical, submission-based style, instead of his usual brawling, making him tap in Moxley's bulldog choke move and forcing him to say "I quit" afterwards. Brilliantly, Kingston then entered a trance, muttering "I'm sorry, Mox," as though he'd just beaten his former friend. Eddie's character and performance are terrifically multi-layered. Excalibur interviewed both the Young Bucks and FTR from separate locations, where FTR said they care more about being the AEW champions than any kind of dream match, and Matt Jackson revealed that if they don't win the tag titles at Full Gear, they'll never challenge for them again. Keeping with the yearly Full Gear tradition of an AEW co-executive vice president putting their future championship wins on the line, just like Cody did against Jericho last year. It's almost an overcompensation for their lackluster match build so far. Hopefully they've got a satisfying plan for how to get around this. How do you top MJF and Chris Jericho's musical number from last week? Bring out a Mr. Eric B. of Wyoming. Eric Bischoff, Luchasaurus, Britt Baker and Peter Avalon all questioned how MJF would fit in with the Inner Circle in a town hall format, which he answered in a genuinely convincing way. MJF is amazing, but the one thing he lacks is how to be a team player, and that's what he wants to learn from the Inner Circle. Chris Jericho said a place is his if he can beat him at Full Gear, which MJF threatened to do anything to win. Fantasy booking time, MJF brutally injures Jericho, and then the rest of the Inner Circle have to serve him tribal chief style. The Dark Order and assorted babyfaces surrounded the ring for Cody and Orange Cassidy's TNT title Lumberjack rematch next, which worked good for Cassidy at first, with the Best Friends catching him and the Dark Order getting cheap shots at Cody, but then it massively turned in Cody's favor when John Silver pump-kicked Cassidy's head off behind the referee's back, and Arn Anderson sucker-punching Orange to help Cody win, further playing into a more heelish Rhodes persona. Darby Allin watched on throughout this, annoyed he wasn't on his Game Boy. Miro and Kip Sabian jumped the Best Friends afterwards backstage. After winning the NWA Women's title from Thunder Rosa the night before, Serena Deeb had a title defense against Layla Hirsch. Deeb is great, but it was Hirsch who stood out here as a Russian arm-breaking machine. As cool as she was though, this was still the same 5 minutes of TV time in the slot before the main event, showcasing another promotion's women's championship. Remembering they actually have a women's title of their own, Shida then challenged Nyla Rose for a match at Full Gear, which is in just over a week's time. Sean Spears squashed VSK with a Death Valley driver and then beat up a Mantor in the crowd afterwards. How dare he challenge the Mantor move? Oh right, it's Scorpio Sky in disguise, furthering their feud. They'll have a match next week, and the main event was the other championship eliminator semi-final between Kenny Omega versus Pentagon. Because firstly, Eddie Kingston subbed in Pentagon because of Rey Fenix's unfortunate injury last week, and secondly, because it should always be Pentagon. This right here, the fully heel, cleaner version of Omega taking on Pentagon Jr. is what AEW's main event scene should have been from the very start of Dynamite. Omega versus Pentagon was the best match at the original All In, and Pentagon could easily become a huge draw for the Latino audience, just like how Rey Mysterio boosted SmackDown viewership in the mid-noughties. Instead, Pentagon has been arm-dragged from faction to faction, and Kenny did Spider-Man 3 for a year. It took a year to figure it out, but I really hope AEW realize what they have here. This match not only oozed wrestling action, it was absolutely dripping. It was dripping wet with charisma. If this was in front of a full capacity crowd, it would have been electric. From Omega's new entrance, which had his cleaner girls wearing Lucha Bros masks, to him wearing the AAA Mega Championship for the opening few minutes, the belt he won from Rey Fenix, to the chop battle with Pentagon, this immediately had immeasurably grabbing star power. Hopefully Tony Khan will see the big viewership for last week's Pentagon versus Phoenix match, and finally start pushing the Lucha Bros in the main event scene. Pentagon worked babyface throughout, fighting back against Omega, working him over, but eventually fell to the one-winged angel, making it official Full Gear will see Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page to become the #1 contender. And we're also getting the Phantom Menace up next, which JR awkwardly threw to at the end of the show. What did you think of Dynamite? Let me know in the comments. This was one of those incredibly solid episodes that effectively advanced all the major storylines, complete with a fun cameo from Bischoff and 2 fantastic semi-final matches. This week's Dynamite is 4 out of 5. But can you get 5 out of 5 on our first ever fan participation QuizzleMania? For partsFUNknown Patreons, Adam Blompier is hosting the first monthly play-along QuizzleMania today. Join partsFUNknown's Patreon page now by signing up at the link below for all the details on how to take part. And watch me not come last and the return of Sean Ross Sapp on QuizzleMania 21, QuizzleMania Goes Hollywood, by clicking the video on the right, and find out more about the top AEW star potentially on their way to WWE by clicking the video below that. I've been Mr. Davis, your Jam That Champion.